Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, as was just noted, San Diego lost an icon. California lost an icon. For many of us, we lost a friend. We lost a mentor, a constituent, someone who was a great source of encouragement, of advice and counsel. When I decided to enter the political arena, Herb Klein was one of the first folks I sat down with to talk about it. He gave me advice, he gave me guidance. He had a long history, as was noted. He was a journalist, he was a political professional, he was an author of a book called Making It Perfectly Clear. He was a phenomenal, passionate Trojan. I'll never forget his 90th birthday, watching his face absolutely light up as the surprise present came marching in. The USC marching band had come from LA to San Diego to play Happy Birthday for Herb Klein. He was full of great stories. He would tell you the story of 1962, the meltdown is what he called it. Richard Nixon's absolute collapse in a press conference. And if you ever hear the audio at the beginning, you'll hear him referring to Mr. Klein, who was standing right there beside him. He would tell the story in 1959 of going with Nixon, then vice president, to Russia and the meetings with Khrushchev. In 1960, Herb was a part of organizing the first televised political debate in history. I'll never forget him telling the story after the 1960 election of being in Florida with Richard Nixon. In the aftermath of the election, the phone rang where they were staying, and he picked up the phone and said, "Hello?" The gentleman on the other line said, "This is Jack Kennedy. Can I speak to Mr. Nixon?" Herb shuttled over to Nixon and said, "Mr. Kennedy would like to speak to you," and Nixon replied in a manner that made it clear he didn't wish to speak to Mr. Kennedy. Herb Klein went back to the phone and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. President-elect, Mr. Nixon doesn't want to speak to you." At which point Mr. Kennedy said, "Herb, it's really important. I really need to talk to him." And this proceeded over days and days. Herb Klein was a man who lived history. He made history. He had a front row seat to so many defining moments in our country's history. But he carried on that legacy, not just being a part of it, but by helping pass that on to future generations and hope that they may learn the lessons. Herb Nixon was described, to paraphrase, by Time magazine after he left the Nixon administration preceding the Watergate scandal as someone who was an oasis of consideration and sympathy in what is often a frigid and cutthroat political environment. Herb Klein is someone throughout his career that maintained his dignity, he maintained his honor, he maintained his relationships. He was someone who has a legacy that we will never match. But if we strive, if we try and conduct ourselves in the manner and example he gave, then we can have a testament not only to his legacy, but to the greatness of all that he sought to achieve in his life. So it is with a sad and heavy heart that many of us join in a celebration of a life of 91 years. I saw him about a week or so before his passing. And although he was physically weak, he was mentally strong. We walked through a history of obscure vice presidential candidates, and he assessed the strengths and weaknesses of each and every one of them. We turned to the problems of Sacramento, and he gave me great encouragement, great hope, great belief that a state as great as California can tackle any challenge and any problem it faces and come out stronger. So I join with my colleagues from San Diego and from all over California and friends and family across America as we remember a truly amazing, amazing individual and someone we'll never forget, Herb Klein.